After work, I was bored and scrolling through social media when I accidentally came across a post. The poster asked, "I went for my prenatal checkup today and found out there's something wrong with the baby. I have to get an abortion, but my mother-in-law and husband really care about this child. How can I frame someone else for it?" Looking at this dark thought, I assumed it was probably just another engagement farming post trying to go viral. These posts nowadays have no bottom line. They'll make up any story for traffic. But out of curiosity, I still clicked in. The post had only been up for a few hours, and the poster's IP address was from the same area as mine. There weren't many comments yet, and most of them were condemning the poster for having no morals just to gain followers. I scrolled down, and at the very bottom there was actually a comment genuinely trying to help the poster. You can find an opportunity to have your family member, colleague, or friend touch your belly. Then later pretend to have stomach pain. After the miscarriage, you can blame that person and even get a hefty compensation. Seeing this comment seriously giving advice to the poster completely shattered my worldview. I noticed there was an author's like mark below it, which made it even more unbelievable. After scrolling through that post, I fell into a drowsy sleep since I had an early meeting the next day. The next day at the office, I immediately got busy with work and completely forgot about yesterday's post. During lunch break, everyone gathered together to chat. I was just about to share that morally corrupt post from yesterday when my colleague, Madison Carter, spoke first. She was already almost 4 months pregnant, rubbing her belly while saying, "My belly is getting more and more obvious. I can feel the baby moving these past few days. I think this child is very active." Colleagues all offered their congratulations. "Madison, looking at your pregnancy glow based on my experience, probably a big baby boy. Active is good. It means the baby is healthy and strong." "Exactly, Madison. You're definitely going to have an adorable child." She rubbed her belly and said, "Boy or girl doesn't matter. I spent the past few years focusing on my career and only started thinking about having a baby these 2 years. My in-laws really care about this. They practically want to keep me locked at home taking care of me, but I can't let go of things at the company, so I'll finish this month before taking leave." "Madison, you're so dedicated. Health should come first, though." "Yeah, everyone else is eager to rest, but you're eager to come to work." I watched her happily rubbing her belly while everyone sincerely blessed her, and I swallowed the words about that post I was about to share. After all, she was pregnant too. The clock in the break room chimed several times. Work time was about to start. Everyone brushed the cookie crumbs off themselves and picked up their coffee, preparing to return to their desks. Addison suddenly grabbed me and quietly pulled me aside. "Ella, my belly is getting bigger and bigger. I'll probably have to take leave soon. When I leave, this project needs a leader to take over. I think it'll be you. You're the one I'm most optimistic about. I felt a connection with you the moment I saw you." She smiled as she congratulated me. "You're the most capable among this batch of young people. I struggled for years to become team leader. Unlike you, the director has praised you at meetings so many times just months after you joined." She threw compliment after compliment at me. I could only laugh dryly and offer some polite small talk. "Madison, I still have a lot to learn from you. After all, you have more experience. Look at you now. You have a child on the way. Career and family both successful." Just as I finished speaking and was about to leave, she grabbed me again. "Dear, why are you being so formal with me? I stopped you because I want you to share my good fortune." I was a bit confused. "Good fortune? Look at my pregnant belly, round and full. Even the elders at home say this belly is full of blessings. There's an old saying that this is called a blessing belly. Whoever touches it will have good luck today. I specifically pulled you aside because I want you to share my blessings. Touch it, and your promotion to team leader is guaranteed." She stuck out her belly full of expectation. The moment I heard those words, alarm bells went off in my head. I immediately thought of the post I saw last night. A pregnant woman wanting to miscarry deliberately lets others touch her belly to frame them. I froze for a second, watching as her eyes lit up, staring at my hand. It was truly bizarre. Better safe than sorry. Although it's wrong to be overly suspicious of others, I still waved my hand. "Madison, thanks for your kindness, but my hands are touching keyboards and equipment all day. I'm afraid my hands have bacteria and aren't clean. It wouldn't be good for the baby. You're pregnant and should be careful." Her smile immediately froze on her face and her eyes dimmed considerably. I keenly caught the change in her expression. Soon she put on a forced show of generosity. "What's there to be afraid of? Just touch over my clothes. Nothing will happen. Plus, with a layer of belly in between, what could possibly happen to the baby?" If I hadn't seen that post, I definitely wouldn't have thought twice and would have naively thanked her. But thinking about that post, I felt her behavior was becoming increasingly abnormal. "Forget it, Madison. Thanks for your kindness, but let's wait until after you give birth. I'll definitely share the good fortune at the baby shower. The supervisor is coming soon. Let's get back to our desks." I hurriedly excused myself and escaped back to my cubicle before she could say another word. After returning to my desk, I secretly glanced at Madison several times. After I rejected her, her face turned somewhat pale. When people around her discussed work matters, she seemed absent-minded, completely unlike her usual self. But I also had some doubts. Usually she was very enthusiastic and always smiling at work. She didn't seem like someone with such dark thoughts. Yet all afternoon I watched her maintain a cold expression, occasionally touching her belly as if something was weighing on her mind. After work and back home, I still had some doubts about the whole thing. Was I being too sensitive? At work, she and I never had any conflicts or disputes. I'd always respected her as a senior. She really had no reason to harm me like this. With questions in mind, I opened that post again and carefully examined the details. A day had passed, and the post had gained quite a bit of traffic, but most people were condemning the poster in the comments. How can you live the rest of your life after gaining followers this way? If I see another post like this, let me win the lottery. Almost no one believed this was a genuine question. Probably afraid of acquaintances seeing it, this was a newly created account. The author had no profile description, and the avatar was a generic one many people used. Aside from her IP address being from the same area as mine, I couldn't see any more details. I scrolled through the unanimous condemnation in the comments below, and suddenly remembered the comment from yesterday that suggested letting others touch her belly. Because it was so malicious, few people had liked it, and that comment had already sunk to the bottom. I casually refreshed, only to discover that the poster had actually replied to that comment just a few minutes ago. "Hello, may I ask if there are any other methods besides letting someone touch my belly?" The belly touching was rejected, so it's not very feasible. The moment I saw those words, my eyes widened in disbelief. I refreshed several times to confirm this comment really existed. How could there be such a coincidence? Madison just happened to ask me to touch her belly today, and I just happened to reject her. At that moment, I felt my head go numb. Even my breathing stopped for a few beats. After a long while, no one replied to that poster, but I felt it was getting more and more terrifying. If it really was Madison, then since she didn't succeed today, she definitely wouldn't let it go in the future. Looking at her determination today, she wouldn't give up until she found a scapegoat to take the fall for her. I thought it over several times, trying to figure out what grudge Madison and I had that would make her want to harm me like this, or was she just looking to frame a random person? And I just happened to be the one she picked today. So if I didn't take the bait, would she shift her target to harm other colleagues? My speculation was soon verified. Madison's target had always been only me. The next morning, I had just woken up when I opened that post again. That person had replied to the poster. If touching the belly didn't work, then have that person bring you a meal or a drink. After eating, say your stomach hurts. Insist that there was something wrong with what she brought you that caused the miscarriage. Even if a real lawyer gets involved, she'll bear some responsibility one way or another. I was staring at this comment in shock. There really are such vicious people in the world. The next second, my phone notification sounded. It was a message from Madison. Ella, I got up a bit late today. Could you please bring me breakfast? I'll transfer you the money. After all, I'm in a special period and can't go hungry. It's not good for the baby. Seeing I didn't reply immediately, she sent a few more emojis urging me. I looked at the reply under the post, still not having recovered. This basically proved that the poster was Madison, and she was clearly targeting me. I opened the message again. Madison had even tagged me in our small group chat. Ella, I'd like to ask you to bring me breakfast on your way to work. The other colleagues either take the subway or squeeze onto buses. Only you drive, so it's more convenient. She added a creepy smiling emoji at the end that sent chills down my spine. I could only pretend I didn't see it and didn't reply with a single word. My phone buzzed several more times, probably messages from her. I didn't even look at them. This Madison had clearly dug a pit and was waiting for me to jump in. I originally thought we had no conflicts and were just colleagues with a peaceful relationship. Now it seems I was too naive. Some people's hatred has no reason. I figured out why Madison chose me first, because I actually had the financial means. Almost everyone else in our department had just graduated from college, renting apartments with hardly any money. Only I, relying on my parents' financial support, had already bought a house and a car. So Madison chose me as the scapegoat because after framing me, she would get a hefty sum no matter what. There was another reason. Recalling her pretentious behavior yesterday, I finally understood. She said that when she takes maternity leave, I would probably be promoted to team leader by management. She was afraid of losing her current team leader position. It was earned through seniority. But ever since I joined the company, the boss had praised my proposals at meetings more than once and had started, intentionally or unintentionally, assigning some projects to me. Madison was so calculating, wanting to pin her child's life on me. Not only could she avoid being blamed by her husband and in-laws, but she could also eliminate an obstacle in her career path. What a perfect plan to kill two birds with one stone. Truly flawless. As soon as I arrived at the company, Madison was wailing at her desk, clutching her belly. When she saw me, her eyes lit up as if she'd spotted prey. Ella, sweetheart, you're finally here. I'm so sorry to trouble you. I stayed up late last night revising the proposal and overslept this morning. I didn't have time to eat breakfast. Being pregnant and not eating breakfast makes my stomach feel like it's burning. I could only play dumb. I'm really sorry, Madison. I had my phone on do not disturb mode after rest time last night and didn't see your messages. I pretended as if I had just opened my phone. Hearing me say this, her face suddenly changed and darkened as if she was choking on anger stuck in her throat. Looking at her expression, I confirmed the fact that she was the poster. She deliberately clutched her belly and curled up at her desk. Oh my. It's okay, Ella, I understand, but I'm really starving right now. It's inconvenient for me to move around. Let me transfer you the money first. Could you please make a quick trip downstairs to buy me something to eat? She pretended to look weak while people around her came over with concern. What's wrong, Madison? Are you feeling unwell, Madison? You're in a special situation right now. You need to protect the baby in your belly. Your health comes first. Everything else is secondary. It's nothing. I just didn't have time to eat breakfast this morning. I'm a bit dizzy. I was just asking Ella to make a quick trip downstairs to buy me something to eat. She smoothly stated her request in front of everyone. If I played dumb again, I would really seem heartless. Okay, Madison, drink some water first. I'll put my things down and go buy something for you right away. Hearing me say this, a smile finally appeared at the corner of her mouth. Thank you so much, Ella. I deliberately took my time putting down my bag while sneaking glances at the clock on the wall. At 8 o'clock sharp, the supervisor would come up from downstairs for inspection. I timed it perfectly. The moment the supervisor came up, I was already jogging, preparing to go downstairs. Pretending I couldn't dodge in time, I deliberately bumped right into her. She staggered from my collision and nearly fell to the ground. I looked up to meet the supervisor's face and hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Miss Thompson. I was in such a hurry, I didn't see you coming up. The supervisor usually had a bad temper, but seeing me, she suppressed her anger. What are you in such a rush for so early in the morning?
I lowered my head and put on an anxious expression. Madison hasn't eaten breakfast. She's pregnant and says she's feeling dizzy. I was rushing downstairs to buy her something. The moment those words left my mouth, Madison's face changed. She clearly hadn't expected me to announce it so publicly. The supervisor frowned immediately. Didn't eat breakfast? Madison forced a smile. I overslept. The supervisor's expression became even more severe. You're nearly 4 months pregnant. How can you be so careless? If something happens to you or the baby during work hours, the company becomes involved. Then she looked at me. You don't need to buy anything. I'll have HR arrange breakfast delivery from now on. Pregnancy isn't your coworker's responsibility. Madison's smile nearly cracked. Her plan had been ruined before it even started. I quietly returned to my desk. Across the office, Madison stared at me. For the first time, I saw naked resentment in her eyes. That evening, after work, I opened the anonymous post again. Sure enough, there was a new update. The breakfast plan failed. Are there any other methods? Within minutes, that evil commenter replied. If food doesn't work, use physical contact. Create an accident. Let her bump into you or spill something near you. Pregnant women are vulnerable. Once the baby is gone, nobody can prove what really happened. I felt cold all over. This wasn't a joke anymore. Someone was actively teaching Madison how to frame me. And Madison was listening. The next few days became a nightmare. Everywhere I went, Madison appeared. If I walked through a doorway, she suddenly stood behind me. If I got water, she appeared beside the dispenser. If I used the stairs, she somehow appeared there too. Each time she got dangerously close while holding her belly. Fortunately, after reading that post, I was on high alert. Whenever I saw her approaching, I immediately moved away. Several coworkers even began joking. Ella, why are you hiding from Madison lately? I laughed. I'm scared I'll accidentally bump into her. A pregnant woman is precious. Everyone praised me for being considerate. Only Madison's face grew uglier every day. A week later, I received a private message from an unfamiliar account. The account sent only one sentence. Why are you making things difficult for a pregnant woman? My heart skipped a beat. I instantly knew who it was. The mysterious advisor. I didn't reply. Instead, I took screenshots of everything. The post, the comments, the messages, every single piece of evidence. Then I contacted a lawyer friend. After reviewing everything, he became serious. These messages alone aren't enough for criminal charges. But if something really happens, they become extremely important evidence showing premeditation. That was exactly what I needed. From that day forward, I secretly began recording every interaction with Madison. I also installed a dash camera in my car and carried a small recording device. If she wanted to play games, I would be ready. 2 weeks later, the opportunity finally came. It was Friday afternoon. The entire department was preparing for a major presentation. Everyone was running around carrying documents. Suddenly, a scream erupted from the conference room. I turned around. Madison was lying on the floor. One hand covered her stomach. The other pointed directly at me. Her face was pale as paper. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Ella pushed me. The entire office froze. What? You pushed me. Madison cried hysterically. My baby. My baby. Several coworkers immediately rushed over. Someone called an ambulance. Someone else supported Madison. In the chaos, dozens of eyes turned toward me. Shock. Suspicion. Confusion. Exactly the reaction she wanted. Madison clutched her stomach and sobbed. She was jealous that management wanted to promote her. She pushed me when nobody was looking. The accusations spread through the room like wildfire. I looked down at her calmly. Then I smiled. A smile that made Madison's expression freeze. Madison, you should finish your performance before making accusations. Her face stiffened. What do you mean? I pointed toward the ceiling. Everyone instinctively looked up. There, mounted above the conference room entrance, was a newly installed security camera. The company had upgraded the surveillance system 3 days earlier. I had noticed it immediately. Apparently Madison hadn't. The blood drained from her face. At that exact moment, the supervisor arrived. After hearing the accusation, she didn't say a word. She simply called security. Pull the camera footage. Madison's body began trembling. 5 minutes later, the video appeared on the conference room screen. The footage was crystal clear. Everyone watched silently. The recording showed Madison glancing around, making sure nobody was paying attention, then deliberately stepping toward me. When I moved aside, she suddenly threw herself onto the floor. There wasn't even the slightest contact between us. The room fell completely silent. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. Madison's face turned deathly white. Someone finally whispered. She fell by herself? Another coworker stared in disbelief. She was trying to frame Ella? The supervisor slammed the table. Madison Carter. At that moment, Madison completely broke down. She burst into tears. But nobody felt sympathy anymore. The ambulance still took her to the hospital. A few hours later, the results came back. The fetus had already stopped developing weeks earlier. The pregnancy could not continue. The doctor confirmed that the miscarriage had absolutely nothing to do with the fall. Everything collapsed at once. Her husband and in-laws soon learned the truth. Then the police learned about the anonymous post. Then they learned about the comments. Then they learned about the attempted framing. Investigators traced the accounts. And finally uncovered the most shocking truth of all. The person giving Madison advice online wasn't a stranger. It was her husband. The baby's condition had been discovered during prenatal testing weeks earlier. Neither of them wanted the responsibility of admitting the truth. So together they created a plan. Find a scapegoat. Blame someone else. Collect compensation. Preserve their reputations. I was simply the unfortunate target they selected. By the time everything came to light, Madison had lost her job. Her husband lost his as well. Several people they had tried to deceive filed lawsuits. As for me, the company publicly cleared my name. The supervisor later promoted me to the team leader position Madison had desperately tried to protect. On my first day in the new office, I remembered that strange anonymous post. One careless comment online had exposed an entire conspiracy. Sometimes the internet reveals something terrifying. The most dangerous people aren't strangers hiding in dark alleys. They're the smiling coworkers sitting right beside you, waiting for the perfect opportunity to push you into the pit they dug themselves. 3 months after Madison was fired, I thought the whole ordeal was finally over. I was wrong. One rainy evening, I was working late in my new office when a notification suddenly popped up on my phone. A friend request. The account had no profile picture. No posts. No friends. Just a single nickname. Truth. Normally I would have ignored it. But the message attached to the request made my blood run cold. You ruined my family. Are you happy now? I immediately knew who it was. Madison. After a moment of hesitation, I accepted the request. The moment I did, messages flooded in. You stole my position. You destroyed my marriage. My in-laws hate me. My husband left me. You won. Congratulations. I stared at the screen. The sheer shamelessness was unbelievable. Even now, she still thought everything was someone else's fault. I replied with only one sentence. You destroyed your own life. A full minute passed. Then her reply came. If you hadn't avoided me, none of this would have happened. I almost laughed. She was genuinely blaming me for not letting her frame me. Before I could answer, another message arrived. Do you know what happened after the investigation? I didn't respond. She continued anyway. Apparently after the police uncovered the online messages, her husband had immediately shifted all responsibility onto her. He claimed she was the mastermind. He claimed he was only trying to comfort his wife. He claimed she pressured him into helping. The two of them had spent months accusing each other. Neither wanted to take responsibility. In the end, both lost everything. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt exhausted. These people were like quicksand. The more attention you gave them, the more they dragged you down. I blocked the account. Then I thought that would be the end. Again, I was wrong. A week later, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. The caller introduced himself as a detective. Ms. Ella, we'd like you to come to the station. My heart immediately tightened. What happened? There was a brief silence. Then he said, Madison Carter has gone missing. I froze. What does that have to do with me? Before she disappeared, she left a handwritten note. A bad feeling instantly formed in my stomach. The detective continued. Your name was mentioned several times. The next morning, I arrived at the station. The detective placed a photocopy of the note in front of me. The handwriting was shaky. The paper was stained with tears. Most of it was a long rant blaming everyone around her. Her husband, her in-laws, the company, her former friends, and, of course, me. According to the note, I was supposedly the person who had started everything. I finished reading and slid the paper back. The detective sighed. We don't think you're involved. Then why call me here? Because if she's trying to punish someone before disappearing, you might become a target. Those words sent a chill through me. A target. I suddenly remembered the look in Madison's eyes during our final online conversation. It wasn't anger. It was obsession. The detective continued. We've reviewed security footage from several locations. She visited your neighborhood twice last week. I felt my scalp go numb. What? He nodded. She never approached your house, but she was nearby. For the first time since the case ended, I felt genuine fear. Madison had lost everything. And desperate people were unpredictable. For the next month, nothing happened. No messages. No calls. No sightings. Eventually, the tension faded. Life returned to normal. Then, on a Friday afternoon, a major news story exploded online. A woman had been arrested for attempting insurance fraud. The article included surveillance images. The moment I saw the photo, I nearly dropped my phone. It was Madison. She had dyed her hair, lost weight, changed her appearance. But it was unmistakably her. According to the report, she had tried to stage another accident. This time, she targeted a wealthy elderly woman. She intentionally threw herself down a flight of stairs and accused the woman of pushing her. Unfortunately for Madison, the building had cameras everywhere. The footage exposed everything. Again, I sat there staring at the article. A strange sadness washed over me. Even after losing her marriage, her career, her reputation, she still hadn't learned anything. She was still looking for shortcuts. Still looking for victims. Still looking for someone else to blame. A few days later, I learned she had been sentenced to prison. Not because of what happened to me. Because she simply couldn't stop doing the same thing over and over. Years later, whenever new employees joined the company, someone would inevitably tell the story. The pregnant team leader who tried to frame a coworker. The anonymous online post that exposed the scheme. The security camera that caught everything. Most people laughed and treated it like office folklore. But I always remembered something else. If I hadn't seen that post that night, if I had casually touched her belly, if I had bought her breakfast, if I had trusted her smile, my life could have turned out very differently. Sometimes disaster doesn't arrive wearing a villain's face. Sometimes it arrives smiling warmly, calling you dear, and asking for a small favor. I thought Madison's story had finally ended after her imprisonment. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. I became the department director. The company expanded rapidly, and most of the younger employees only knew the Madison incident as an old office legend. Life was peaceful, predictable, exactly the way I liked it. Then one afternoon, HR knocked on my office door. Director Ella, there's a candidate for the management trainee program. Her qualifications are excellent, but there's something unusual. I looked up from my documents. What is it? HR handed me a resume. The moment I saw the applicant's last name, my hand froze. Carter. And beneath the emergency contact section was a name I would never forget. Madison Carter. My heart skipped a beat. What relation? HR answered immediately. Her daughter. Silence filled the office. I stared at the resume. The applicant was 22 years old. Top university. Outstanding grades. Multiple internships. An almost perfect record. None of it made sense. Madison had lost her baby years ago. Then I noticed the birth date. This wasn't the child from the pregnancy. It was a daughter from an earlier relationship that Madison had apparently never mentioned to anyone at work. I leaned back in my chair. What do you need from me? HR hesitated. Some people recognized the name and wanted to make sure there wouldn't be any conflict. I looked at the resume again, then shook my head. Schedule the interview. The interview was held 3 days later. When the young woman walked into the room, I immediately saw the resemblance. Not physically. Her face was completely different. But her eyes. They were Madison's eyes. Sharp. Alert. Observant. The young woman sat down calmly. Good morning. Good morning. For the next 30 minutes, we discussed projects, management, and business strategy. Her answers were excellent. Clear. Confident. Professional. Nothing like Madison. Finally, the interview ended. As she stood to leave, she suddenly paused. May I ask a personal question? I nodded cautiously. She took a deep breath. Are you Ella? The room became silent. Yes. A faint smile appeared on her face. I thought so. I felt my guard immediately rise. She noticed. Then quickly added. Please don't misunderstand. She reached into her bag. My muscles tensed. Instead of anything dangerous, she pulled out a sealed envelope. I've been looking for you for years. My confusion only grew. She placed the envelope on the table. Before my mother died, she asked me to give this to you. I froze. Died? The young woman nodded. 3 years ago. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. The last thing I had heard was that Madison was in prison. Apparently, after her release, she had developed a serious illness. She passed away not long afterward. The young woman pushed the envelope toward me. She said, only you should read it. That night, I sat alone in my apartment staring at the envelope. Part of me wanted to throw it away. Another part couldn't ignore it. Eventually, I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. The handwriting was unmistakably Madison's. The first line nearly made me drop the paper. Ella, this is probably the first truthful thing I've ever written to you. I continued reading. Madison admitted everything. The anonymous account. The pregnancy. The framing attempts. The lies. The jealousy. The resentment. Everything. But one section stood out. According to her letter, she hadn't initially planned to target me. The original target had been someone else. A former colleague who resigned unexpectedly. When that person left, Madison shifted her attention to me. Why? Because every time she looked at me, she saw something she hated. Potential. I had entered the company and advanced rapidly. Not because of manipulation. Not because of seniority. Not because of luck. Because I worked hard and produced results. Meanwhile, she had spent years protecting her position instead of improving herself. The more management praised me, the more she felt threatened. Eventually, that jealousy grew into obsession. Then obsession became hatred. Then hatred became justification. By the time she started planning against me, she genuinely believed I deserved it. I sat silently for a long time after finishing the letter. Near the end, Madison wrote, the strangest thing is that I spent years thinking you ruined my life. It took losing everything to realize that I was the one holding the knife. I stabbed my own future and blamed you for the wound. The final sentence read, I'm sorry. I folded the letter and returned it to the envelope. For a long time, I simply stared out the window. The apology didn't erase what happened. It couldn't. But it did answer a question that had followed me for years. Why? Why would someone risk everything just to destroy another person? The answer wasn't complicated. It rarely is. Jealousy. Fear. Pride. The belief that someone else's success is the reason for your own unhappiness. A week later, Madison's daughter accepted an offer from another company. Before leaving, she sent me a brief email. Thank you for judging me by my actions rather than my last name. I smiled when I read it. Because that was the difference between her and her mother. Madison spent her life trying to escape responsibility. Her daughter chose to face it. And in that moment, I realized something. Legacies aren't inherited. Choices are. Madison's story ended with regret. Her daughter's story was only beginning.